Okay, so now we're finishing up the review. This first one says find the central angle theta, which subtends an arc of 12 feet with a radius of 45. So if it's arc length, you know you're going to use S equal R theta, where theta had to be in radians, and that's what they want here. So basically we're plugging in numbers for the others. So we have theta is S over R. So the arc length is 12 feet, and the radius is 45 feet. So your units cancel. So if you type 12 over 45 in your calculator, you get 0.26 repeat, so that's 0.267, because they want 3 decimal places. Any questions about that? Okay, then this one says find a positive angle less than 360 that is coterminal with the given angle. So since this is a negative angle, you're going to want to add 360 as many times as necessary to make it positive, and then stop. So if you add 360, you get negative 510. And you add 360 again, and you get negative 150. And you add 360 again, and you get 210. So then you stop. So your answer is 210. If it were positive 870, then minus 360 repeatedly. Well, like 870 minus 360 is 870 minus 360 is 510. That's still bigger than 360, so subtract 360 again.
So you have to do it until it's smaller than 360.
Yeah, so then it'd be 150. And you know, if it's in terms of pi, you would either add 2 pi or subtract 2 pi. Until you're in the right quadrant. Okay, any other questions on 16 or 17? Okay, number 18. This one says negative 5 pi 6, and we want sine of negative 5 pi 6. So the first thing I would do is figure out where that is. Bless you. So coterminal with, okay, so if you go to 5 pi over 6 and then reflect, you get 7 pi over 6. So it's coterminal with 7 pi over 6. The other way to do that is just to count backwards 5 pi 6, like 1 pi 6, 2 pi 6, 3 pi 6, 4 pi 6, 5 pi 6. Start at 0. But then the hard part is you got to use the denominator of 6, 3, and 2. Okay? So 1 pi 6 would be here. 2 pi 6 would be the same as 1/3. Right? And then 3 pi 6 would be the same as a half. Then 4 pi 6, and then 5 pi 6. So going backwards, 5 pi 6. Another way to look at it is go all the way to 6 pi 6 and then come back 1. So this is your location. So then this is your ordered pair. So you've got negative square root of 3 over 2, comma negative a half. once you have your ordered pair, figure out what you're doing. Sine is the y, cosine is the x, so it's negative a half, and then cosine is negative square root of 3 over 2. Any questions on that part? Okay, and then for your tangent, you're doing y divided by x. So your 2's cancel, your negatives cancel, and so you get 1 over square root of 3. And then you rationalize that. So multiply by square root of 3 over square root of 3. So you get square root of 3 over 3. No, because you got a negative divided by negative, positive. Yeah, so another thing, like think about what quadrant you're in. And since we went to about right here, tangent is positive there because it's a negative comma negative. So that's how you know you have a positive answer for tangent, because of where you are. Any other questions? Okay. Then the next part says cosecant, and so that's when you flip your sine answer. So if you flip negative a half, you get negative 2. And secant is when you flip cosine. So that's negative 2 divided by square root of 3 from this part, just flipping it. And then from there you have to rationalize. So square root of 3, square root of 3, negative 2 square root of 3 over 3. And then for cotangent, that's 1 over tangent. And so you can flip your original part, which was 1 over square root of 3. That's the easiest way. Or if you flip the other one, you got 3 over square root of 3. Then you have to rationalize. And 3 square root of 3 over 3, and then cancel, so then you get square root of 3. Make sure you all simplify, canceling out your 3's.
Will you get the same answer if you just do x over y?
Oh, yeah, that's the same thing. Yeah, because your negatives cancel, your 2's cancel, and yeah, that's a good comment. Anything else? Okay. So now this one says do sine of 0. So 0 degrees has the ordered pair 1 comma 0. So the sine would have to be the y part, which is just 0. And 45 degrees would be the ordered pair square root of 2 over 2 for both x and y. And so for tangent, that would just be 1, because if it's the same thing with the same sign, it's 1. So then it's going to be 0 plus 1, which is 1. This is one where if you wanted to, you could use your calculator, but make sure you're in degree mode and work towards that number, and in this case, you got it. So you get 1. So check with degree mode. Okay, the next one, I'll check it with radian mode and see what number we have to go towards. The reason why I have to use radian mode is because it says pi over 6. So single click there. Now change to radian. And then we want 2 cosine pi over 6 minus 6 tan pi over 3. So that's the decimal negative 8.660 some other stuff. It does say to get an exact answer using radicals, and so you can't just abbreviate that. That'd be wrong. But that's the number you're going towards. So work towards that. So to start with, pi 6 has the ordered pair square root of 3 over 2 comma a half. And so cosine of pi over 6 would be the x, which is the square root of 3 over 2. And then we're doing 2 times that. So we get square root of 3. So that's the start. I'm not really done. But that's this side. Cosine is x on the ordered pair. Yeah. If you know you're on the unit circle, it's just x. If you're not, it would be x over r. Okay, so then for pi thirds, your ordered pair is 1/2 comma square root of 3 over 2. We want tangent of pi thirds, so that's y over x. Your 2's cancel and you get square root of 3 over 1, which is square root of 3. Then this says do minus 6 square root of 3. So think of that as x minus 6x, and you get negative 5x, because basically your answer is negative 5 square root of 3. You combine your like terms and treat square root of 3 as if it were x. X minus 6x is negative 5x, so it's negative 5 square root of 3. Square root of 3 minus 6 square root of 3 is negative 5 square root of 3. Yeah, 1 minus 6. Oh yeah, the 2's cancel because your side and denominator cancel. Yeah. And so then negative 5 square root of 3, enter, the decimal matches. So that's how you know you did it right.
And how did you get this negative 6x?
Well, I just think of x equals square root of 3. And so this is x minus 6x to make negative 5x. You don't have to do it this way. It's just, I know some people, when they see this, they get confused. You got to think of those as like terms. Like the 1 is a coefficient and the negative 6 is a coefficient. So then 1 minus 6 is negative 5. And keep the square root of 3 the same. Okay. Cool. Okay, then 21 are just formulas. The linear speed formula is s over t. And the angular speed formula is theta over t. Think of linear speed as like miles per hour, or m divided by h, or like meters divided by seconds, or feet per second, or anything like that. And then angular speed would be like degrees per second, or radians per second, or radians per minute. So the main thing is you need theta over t for the w and s over t for the v. So those are just formulas. So mph is the same as miles divided by hours. Okay, then the next one, make sure you're in degree mode or use the degree symbol. 11, so secant of 11 is 1.0187, so that's 1.02. It wanted 2 decimal places. Now, if you didn't have the calculators we have, you could have done 1 over cosine 11, or if it were locked, you could do 1 over cosine 11. Okay, the next one we have to do a conversion from degrees to radians, and so our pi has to be on top. Yeah, we have pi over 180. So then on the calculator we do 164 divided by 180, which is 41 over 45. So then you get 41 pi over 45. But this one wants a decimal, 2 decimal places. 2.862, so 2.86. So what I did to start was reduce my fraction through the calculator. It's basically dividing both by 4 to get 41 over 45. And then you write it with pi and then type that in. Because 164 is not one that would show up on your unit circle. All right, and then 24. This one shows you negative 5 pi over 6. So that was coterminal with 7 pi over 6. You can go to 5 pi over 6 and then just flip across here. Or, like we said before, you can count backwards. 0, then 1 pi over 6, 2 pi over 6, 3 pi over 6, 4 pi over 6, 5 pi over 6. So, yeah, to right there. And so that's A, and that's quadrant 3. There was somebody on that packet that started counting from the y-axis instead of the x-axis. So y'all make sure you do that right. So if you're going positive, it's starting at 0 going up this way. And if it's negative, it's starting at 0 and going down this way. So like negative 30, negative 45, negative 60, negative 90, and so forth. So that was A and 3. The next one, now these numbers are all bigger than 1. Remember when you're doing your unit circle, the numbers would have to be smaller than 1. So my first step on this would be do your Pythagorean theorem. So we've got 3 squared plus negative 2 squared, which is 13. Because that's 9 plus 4. So then that's the square root of 13. That's your first step. The next step would be graph, so you know where you are. 3 negative 2 is about right there. So you're going right 3 and down 2. And then your hypotenuse is the square root of 13. So this is the one where you have different ways you can do this. You can think of sine as y over r, or you could think of it as opposite over hypotenuse if you know this is your reference angle. This little bit right there. So this is the opposite, this is the hypotenuse, and this is the adjacent. So -2 over square root of 13. And then you got to rationalize that. So you get -2 square root of 13 over 13. So that's your sine answer. Cosine would be x over r, which is like the adjacent over the hypotenuse. So 3 over square root of 13. And again, square root both of them. So 3 square root of 13 over 13. And then tangent would be y over x, or you could think opposite over adjacent. So that's -2/3. Either that way or that way. From the ordered pair, -2 over 3, or opposite over adjacent. The next one they have listed is cotangent. Remember, sometimes they put cosecant there instead, so just pay attention. Cotangent is 1 over tangent, and so you just flip that answer. So you get -3/2. And then secant is when you flip your cosine answer. So that'd be square root of 13 over 3 from flipping the 3 over square root of 13. That'd be the simplest way. Or if you do this other thing, it's 13 divided by 3 square root of 13. And then rationalize that. Y'all make sure you simplify your answers all the way too. So you get 13 square root of 3 over 3 times 13, and then your 13's cancel. So you get square root of 3 over 3. Oh, what did I do? I left off the 1 right there. There. So square root of 13 over 3.
Did you put 13 in?
Yeah, it was 13 square root of 13, and then your 13's cancel that are here.
Wait, then you like flip the cosine?
Yeah, what I did to start with is take this unsimplified part, that 3 over square root of 13, and flip that. And that way you don't have to mess with this stuff.
So you put square root of 13
Over 3.
Wait, why? Then you don't have
Then you don't have to do anything, yeah. The rationalizing is just for the denominator, not the numerator.
Okay.
And then cosecant is 1 over sine. So you see up here, originally we had -2 over square root of 13. So then we do negative square root of 13 over 2. And that's your answer. Again, if you really, really wanted to, -2 square root of 13 over 13 flips to -13 over 2 square root of 13. And then -13 square root of 13 over 2 times 13. And then those cancel, so negative square root of 13 over 2. So eventually you do get there to that. Okay, that's the end of the review. And so let me know if y'all have individual questions.